Welcome back to Richo Hobby and Art. I've been asked to do a painting on applying masking fluid, or frisket, as it's sometimes referred to. Masking fluid is kind of like whiteout. If you are older, and you might remember back when we used to have typewriters, before they were powered with electric, before they had their own erasers and that sort of thing, you would put some whiteout over a grammatical mistake or something like that. And so that's kind of what masking fluid is. Here's one from Winsor Newton that I bought at Hobby Lobby, and this is Incredible White Mask, which is a liquid frisket, which is probably the real type of name for it. I will say that this stuff can sometimes freeze up, harden, and then you can never use it again. That's kind of what happened with this. So I have the bottle, but I don't use it. This works a lot better and has lasted a lot longer. So not a promotion, just telling you what I got. I'm going to demonstrate by doing a painting of the Tellico blockhouse. A blockhouse is sort of like a fort. They used them in the 18th century, early 19th century. Sort of think about like a fort, but it's really just there's a building, and the top portion's a little bigger than the bottom. It's like a tower, and you can check out your enemies from there. Anyway, this was visible from Fort Loudon State Park here in eastern Tennessee, but the area was originally part of the South Carolina colony. And so here's a picture of the actual blockhouse. And so this is a zoom up of that picture. The original picture was quite a distance, and so I zoomed it up for this. The traditional thing is you'd have a white lighthouse on a dark stormy sky or night sky. That's a good use of the masking fluid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this up because the blockhouse is a lighter color than the trees around it. So that's going to be a good example of how this works. So for doing this, the kind of brush that you use, you're going to want one of your older brushes. This is a brush I've had for a long time. I think it was my mother's brush that she gave to me because I don't remember buying it. This is the kind of brush that they send with a color by number, paint by number set. I had a bunch of those. This is just a basic brush that you get from a set of brushes that you buy maybe at a craft store, or hobby store, or paint store, or whatever. Not commercial paints, like hobby paints, artist paints. So anyway, just get one of those. You're going to want to have some water. I've got a thing of water over here. And you can mix this up a little bit. I mean, really, you just want the water to not separate from the material. So a little shake, doesn't need a lot. So here it is. The name of the game here is that you don't want this stuff to stay on your brush too long. So I put my brush in the water and then into the masking fluid, frisket, and just start. You could just do around the edges of your item, but I think for our purposes I'll do the whole thing. Frank Clark, the painter instructor, used to say count to 60 when you're doing this thing, and then get your brush in the water, or else it's going to stick to your brush. And this is an acrylic material, so it's not going to come out if it sticks to your brush. But that probably, I'm rinsing it in the water. That has probably, that's covered, I think, all that we need to cover. There is a little bit on the edge I might do, and I'll bring one of these special brushes in for that, one of these smaller brushes, just to kind of get some of this. There we go. Yeah, and that is how you apply masking fluid. Let it dry. Don't do any painting for a while. Actually, I can see that there are some spots that the stuff is not covering all the way, so I'm just gonna see, it's starting to stick. It's starting to come up. So that's why you want to get your stuff down all at once, because once it starts drying, it's going to want to come up if you touch it. So I'm going to let that sit for a while before I start painting my painting, which I'll do next. Alright, I've gone ahead and started. I wetted down the top and put in the sky. Now it's time to start getting some of those trees in. And I'm just going to do it the nasty way. Get that color down. And actually, before I get too far, one additional thing I'm going to do, just to protect some of my real estate, use some tape. Tape off where the ground is going to be. Now, it's going to be a little further back here, but right, especially here, I'm going to tape that off. And this stuff just is everywhere. And I'll put more on this at some point as well. So I can just see it bubbles up over top of the masking fluid. So get that. The trees will actually cover over the yellow too, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just getting that nice and wet. Just let the stuff mix on the paper. There's a tree over here, and I'm going to hold off and do that later in more detail. Sort of getting a background color in at the moment. So this has remained clear. It bubbles up a little bit, but that's no big deal. When it dries, it'll peel off with the masking fluid. Okay, I've gone ahead and done a lot more to the trees, more defining colors. I mean, it's still very impressionistic, but I've done everything I want to do around the blockhouse. So now I'm going to remove the masking fluid. Some people get special erasers or special ways. I just use my finger. There's nothing wrong with just using your finger, and it just comes right off. And then it comes off here. And there's a couple of spots where maybe you got masking fluid, but you didn't intend to, and you just cover that over later. And then these spots up here, they're coming off. And even if they weren't, this is watercolor, so you could just use water to reactivate them and remove it that way. So, but this is a roof right here, so that doesn't really matter. That's a dark material. And this was not white. It was sort of probably made of wood. Blockhouses would have been wooden. There might have been some, no, most of the ones I've seen were wooden. Of course, this is a reproduction or a recreation. The original would have been long gone. It was just on the site where there was a blockhouse. Thanks for watching.